Hello and welcome back to the RiftGuides WildRift video. Viego is coming. Within this patch on the 8th of May, Viego is going to be released. So let's take a look at the patch notes. Long have we awaited, our favorite rune Monarch is finally here on the Rift soon TM. Well, not soon TM anymore. And with him, a first for WildRift, Final Stand, our newest PvE mode. I'm actually looking forward to this one. If that wasn't enough, we have got new events, skins and companions. But last but not the least, your regularly scheduled balance updates are here as well. Welcome to patch 5.1a. Viego, the Rune King. Once a ruler of a long-lost kingdom, Viego perished over 1,000 years ago when his attempt to bring back his wife from the dead triggered the magical catastrophe known as the Ruination. Transformed into a powerful, unliving wraith tortured by an obsessive longing for a centuries dead queen, Viego now stands as the Rune King, controlling the deadly harrowings as he scours Runeterra for anything that might be one day restoring her and destroying all in his path as the black mist pours endlessly from his cruel, broken heart. Well, as I said earlier, releases on the 8th of May, but the question is, why don't you end the sentence anyway? There's like 50 billion commas here. As a German, I can probably relate to this sentence, but everyone hates this kind of structure. Anyway, let's move on. And here's the long-awaited PvE mode, the Final Stand. Our first PvE mode is here. Play as Callista as she fights off waves of the Iron Order. Will you be able to be the last one standing? And of course, we also have missions to complete and goodies to claim. Final Stand will be available on the 13th of April. We also have some new additional events, and here we have Ink Splendor. Play games, complete missions, and earn goodies such as skin vouchers, rift emblems, and like a kill bobble. Bobble? Whatever. The Ink Splendor event starts on the 28th of April. The next event is going to be a Legacy of the East. Looking for the opportunity to finally get your hands on Jade Dragon Wukong, the Special Edition, or Dragon Fist Lee Sin, also the Special Edition? Now's your chance. Not feeling those two? We also have the Calligraphia pool available for draws. The first 5 rolls will have a guaranteed premium reward. For drop rates, head to our player support page. And this event is going to start on the 28th, so very soon. We also have the Splendorous gifts. During the event period, when you reload on wild cores, reaching milestone amounts will earn you rewards such as skin vouchers, Calligraphia skins, and more. This event begins on the 28th as well. Here we also have Viego's Arrival. Join us in welcoming Viego's arrival into this new event, complete missions and earn rewards. This is on the 8th of May. Now we move over to the hard piece of the patch, the balance changes, and you will actually laugh at this. First we have Ashe. The recent item changes have worked well in Ashe's favor. These adjustments will make sure she's still in line with other marksmen. Her first ability, Ranger's Focus, is getting some adjustments. She loses 5% attack speed, and the Arrow Barrage damage is also losing 5% scaling. First off, Ashe is not a very powerful champion. Ashe is pretty well powerful with a Lulu, and Ashe usually isn't known for high damage. Outside of having a Lulu, it's her utility, the ultimate ability, and that is what makes Ashe strong, or well, does make her good. She was also played in mid lane a lot when it came to competitive play, but a lot of teams couldn't make her work because she was too difficult from that position. However, Ashe is in no spot to get a nerf, but here comes the secret. The Chinese server only has 3, I repeat, 3 roles that can be banned, 3 champions that can be banned per team. And I will show you very quickly, not this one, the other one. Let me quickly get this one over. Okay, let's scroll for this for a second, okay? So we go for Master and above. And let's go for Jungle really quick, okay? Now we press on the ban rate button. What do you guess happens? That's interesting. We see 3 champions. The maximum amount of bans, by the way. 73, 71, 66, 24 on the 4th place. Now, let's take a look at the support role. Click Master Plus, the highest available data, because we don't have the King, like the highest elo yet, okay? And Legendary Q also doesn't work. So okay, let us do the same. We go for ban rate. That's an interesting ban rate on Yuumi, so we have 1 champion here away again. But this one only has 16%. So, if you think about these champions, or this champion like Ashe, that's interesting. So why are we nerfing Ashe when it's a ban issue? But yeah, I think this nerf is pointless, it doesn't serve any purpose, Ashe isn't too strong and is usually a Lulu problem. But now we go over to the funniest thing ever, Ekko. For someone who's able to manipulate time, you would think Ekko would be able to clear jungle camps faster. We're speeding it up to give him some more time to spend helping out his lanes. Passive, Z-Drive Resonance. Damage to monsters increased from 140% to 155%. First ability, Time Winder. The ability gains base damage plus 15 on both the initial damage and the returning damage, which means it's 30 damage on level 1, and this thing also has a monster modifier. His fourth ability, Chrono Break. Health regen is increased from 100% from 100 of 150, so on the later levels it's a plus 50 increase. So what does this do to Ekko? Let's take a look into the past to showcase the funniest stuff Riot is doing. Okay, I'm on the Ekko wiki here of WildRift. Let's assume all the patches are documented properly, okay? First off, we have Ekko being added. Cool. His base stats are getting buffed. Damage to monsters increased from 100% to 130%. Patch 3.2a. Okay. Now then we have a change. Damage to monsters reduced from 150% to 120%. Okay. 4.3a. 3.4a. 120 to 110. 130 to 120. Okay, cool. Oh wait. This one was taken away. Huh. From 120 to 100, so it actually doesn't have a modifier anymore. And then you see damage to monsters increased from 110 to 140, base movement speed changes, chrono break changes, first pass changes, 4.4a. So basically, this champion didn't really get any changes in the jungle department, and if it was changes, it was like, here 10 damage, there 10 damage, then we take away jungle clearing because his jungle clearing was too strong. Now we give him back jungle clearing even though AP items are very much broken. So what is the sense with this? What is the purpose? What is the goal of this balancing? You take away everything over time and then you give everything back. Now the only thing that because like the 15 damage increase comes relatively close to the monster modifier, right? But it also has impact on mid lane. So it just baffles me because we look at so many changes that always do the same thing, minus 10%, plus 10%, then we remove it again, then we give it back again. There's another champion that showcases this even more. It's so stupid. So yeah, I believe Ekko will be a lot better in the jungle. Having 30 more damage on his first ability in his first clear is a lot. Also having more passive damage is also quite a lot. This could bump him up to S tier even, depending on how it plays out. For the mid lane, it very much depends on how many Qs Ekko now needs on how many items to clear the wave instantly. If for example he gets mana boots and can one-shot the wave with just this, then it's a massive change. Now a champion that needs to be nerfed, and god, it's very good that this champion is getting nerfed. Kindred. Delivering death no matter what stage of the game, Kindred has been tumbling through their enemies like it's nothing. We're tweaking their numbers to keep them consistent with their fellow jungles. The base attack goes down from 66 to 62, and the attack damage per level from 4 to 3. Keep in mind, this used to be 70. And this is another nerf. So we have 4 base AD taken away, so 8 in total, and I think 14, because it's up to 14, I think it's like 14 base AD, 14 AD per level, taken away again. That's crazy, no? I'm kind of stupid right now. Is it 14 or 15 right now? Because 1 to 2, well, because don't let hit level 16, but yeah, you get the idea. But you lose a metric ton of AD. Not only this, we do not stop here. First ability, Dance of Arrows. Dance of Arrows movements attack speed increase was 35 and 5%. Now we are lowering it to 20 plus 3% per mark. And to top it off, we're also changing Kindred's ultimate. The self-heal goes down from 200 to 150, and in total like a 100 health decrease on the highest level, and the self-heal goes also down to 50 flat. That is a lot of changes. So, for context, Kindred was probably the most broken jungle, like Lee Sin and such, you know? But with this, even with all these changes, she might remain in the S tier. That is the funny, like that's how broken this champion is. And it's comical how insane this champion is. For the next champion, we have Lilia. Lilia is a champion that excels at flexibility and mobility. However, her recent performance has been underwhelming. We're tweaking her numbers to make sure she can stand her ground, especially in early skirmishes. Booming Blows. Movement speed is increased from 3 to 6% to 4.5% to 7.5%, and the scaling remains the same. The damage is getting increased by 5 per level up until 20 on the highest rank, and by 10% scaling. The outer edge is also being increased by 5 up until 20 per level, and a 10% increase in total. So that's quite a lot of damage buffs, because you have to think about, because the spell deals damage once, and then the outer edge also deals damage again. So it's quite an insane amount of damage that is being buffed, but it doesn't change the underlying problem of Lilia. But let's first talk about the second ability. Watch out, Eep. Vex will do the most perfect impression on this one. Damage. It's going up from 60 to 70%, 60 to 70, and in total like a 10 up, and the sweet spot damage is also getting increased by up to 20, like 20 on level 1 and 20 on your highest rank. So now we come to the problem of Lilia. Lilia has the problem that she needs 3 items. She needs boots, she needs her first item, her second item, and then her like a third item. I do not count boots as like a real item, okay? So she needs those 3 items to be functional. However, she also needs to reach a person. And what's the problem in the game right now? It's too much damage, and if you die too fast you can't reach, and Lilia is more or less a melee champion outside of her third ability, which is like throwing the swirly seed and then going full play. But this doesn't really tackle the issue of Lilia just dying too fast. It's a nice change, I agree, Lilia really needed this, but it's funny enough that they think of buffing Lilia now when Lilia was in the same terrible spot for like an entire season. This champion, I believe, was never really giga broken, or in a state that was giga broken. She was simply not popular and not strong due to how her kit functions and how much time she needed. She was basically a worse version of Morgana, being like 30 seconds slower in the jungle clear. Now we have Nunu. Our best friend duo hasn't been strong enough to hold their own against their enemies. We are making sure they can tank through whatever might come their way in their adventures. Called the Freljord passive, attack speed is getting increased from 30% to 40%. The movement speed is also increased from 10 to 15. And the consume healing is getting an increase in base health. Just 2% more base health or bonus health in terms of survivability. This makes him a lot tanky and provides him more power. I think Tank Nunu was in a fine spot already. AP Nunu was, if he snowballed, really unbearable. I don't think that Nunu necessarily needed a buff. He's a utility jungle. He's not necessarily known to be a carry jungle. So I think he was in an okay spot. But Nunu mains, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like he was that terrible compared to this champion below this, Olaf. Olaf. How can we expect Olaf to rush through enemy formation when he can't survive the initial onslaught of damage? These changes will make sure he's less of a glass cannon and more of a tough as steel warrior. The Berserker Rage maximum attack speed is increased by 10%, the maximum physical vamp is also increased by 5%. The Vicious Strike's bonus shield is also getting changed, the flat amount remains the same but the missing health coefficient, nice one, is increased by 2% of the missing health. The Ragnarok passive stats are getting increased massively. On level 1 he gains 15 extra armor and magic resist, which is insane. If you remember ARAM, he had, I think, similar numbers on level 1 as his second ability. That was a base ability, by the way, and this is an ultimate. So you can pretty much imagine how broken ARAM was. So now again, we go for the same issue with Olaf. They're granting him a bigger shield of the second ability and more tankiness, but will this realistically be enough to make him survive? Because Olaf, unless he gets fed in a sense of getting a lot of HP through Heartsteel, he usually has very big issues even reaching. The most common combo for Olaf to be played in was usually a Lulu, because the Lulu grants him more movement speed to reach and more damage. But with this not being a thing, I think Olaf just falls off too hard against the other champions. Olaf wants to brawl and wants to just run at people, but the issue is, like, as it says in the description, he can't reach them before he dies. And Olaf doesn't really want to press ult just for fun. Like, he wants to have uptime and run at people, but still, I don't know if this will be enough to make Olaf a lot better. Of course, it makes him better, don't get me wrong, but I doubt that this will be the actual breaking point of bringing Olaf back into the meta where he was top tier in the distant past. His jungle clear got nerfed multiple times, and this only changes his fight capabilities, but doesn't tackle any of the jungle initial difference between champions that can farm and can't farm. Because if you look at his ganks, he can only run at people, which is a big downside. Samira. After the last patch, Samira has stepped up against her enemies considerably. We're tweaking the numbers slightly to make sure she doesn't snowball out of control if she is to gain an early advantage. The attack damage, the base attack damage is going down from 64 to 62. The flare damage is getting a decrease in the flat amount and the scaling. You lose 5 damage flat level 1 and on the highest rank as well, and you lose 5% scaling. The Inferno trigger is getting a hefty nerf. You're getting it reduced to 25 on the highest rank. The first rank is the same, the second one is 5 less, and the highest one is 10 less, but the scaling is reduced by 10%. Now, let's take a look at this beautiful thing. So we have League of Legends Wiki. How do I look for, I guess, Samira WildRift Wiki? Let's see. Let's hope it's up to date. Come on, load. Okay, let's go through it. We have the Samira release. Okay, we have an increase in the flare, we have the base damage increase in the passive, we have passive buff, we have base health buff, we have a Daredevil impulse, this is the movement speed reduced, and we have a nerf to the ult as well. Then we have an increase in her first ability. Then we have this change here, which every AD carry got. That's negligible, I think. Then we have another bonus AD ratio increase. We have the cooldown reduce on the second ability. We have the bonus movement speed increase again. From the past, it was a nerf. Then we have more damage onto the first ability, more damage here. Then again, we have a higher growth in armor and magic resist, and we have more damage on flare again. And I think the recent change with the ultimate isn't even here. I think the recent change isn't even here, where we buff our ultimate again to 35. So, what we are doing is, we buffed Samira 19 billion patches in a row, like we have buff, 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 buff. But there's one thing we completely disregard. Samira isn't a solo queue champion. Samira isn't a champion you want to play in enchanters. Samira is a champion you want to play with a set amount of champions in the duo department that want to go in, which is predominantly in a duo environment. So this champion's win rate in a pure solo queue environment is always going to be lower. But the issue happened with that one. With Riot's idea of wanting to push every single win rate of a champion towards 50%, you have these champions that those win rates will be sub 50% because, well, people play them in solo queue with an enchanter randomly. And will not win because, well, that champion isn't supposed to function in that way. But with the pre-made support, they will just run over people. So you have a champion and they try to make them balanced for solo queue environment. And you buff them, 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 until to a point where they're so broken, you can just pick them. Regardless of what the situation is, because the champion is now quote-unquote independent. And the same is what they're probably going to do with Kalista, and Kalista is a very duo-dependent champion. And by doing this, they completely overbuff champions up until the point where people realize, wait a minute, I think Samira should not be blind picked, maybe. Samira should be picked with a certain support into certain compositions, and then you just go, go, go. And then suddenly the win rate of Samira, whoop, spikes. That's interesting. It's almost like how champions have different uses and why you want to pick different champions. So yeah, I just found this comical again. The next thing is also quite funny. Twitch is quite strong in the mid to late game, which can lead to him snowballing out of control. If he's strong in the mid to late game, how can he snowball out of control when you snowball early on? Making him difficult to counter. We're tweaking his numbers slightly so his opponents have more ways to fight back when Twitch gets ahead. Okay, before I read the numbers and the things, remember what I said earlier, there's one champion that is very much enabling these type of champions. It's Lulu. On the Chinese server we have 3 bans, and I've shown you the ban rate of the other champions earlier. So it's very much to be expected that champions that have a Lulu all the time, like Vayne, Twitch, etc., because they're like Lulu-centric champions, that they have a higher win rate due to the Lulu. Standalone, Twitch doesn't really do anything. In the past, the AP Twitch jungle was really much annoying, and the AP Twitch was generally annoying, but with this version of the AD Twitch, it's not even remotely close. So, what do we have here? We have base armor being reduced by 0.5 per level, base magic resist, 0.5 reduced, that is a lot. The contaminate damage is getting a 5% decrease. The damage per stack is also being decreased. On the flat department and the scaling department, the spray and pray subsequent target damage reduction is going up from 10% to 15%, and the damage reduction limit is from 60 to 40%. But generally speaking, why do we need to change Twitch? Has any one of you recently or generally have encountered a Twitch that completely went out of control without a Lulu? Have you seen a Twitch completely carry games in high elo, like the highest of the elo possible, without a Lulu by his side? Please let me know, because I cannot see it happen, because any single champion in this game sees a Twitch and runs down the Twitch, because this champion isn't Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa spikes on one item and can do something once she has one item, and if the enemy makes mistakes, she can actually do something. Twitch usually is reliant on rotations on the map with a stealth, or the enemy completely drooling on the device and not doing anything. But yeah, I don't see why Twitch is nerfed. I do not understand. The next change is also something I do not understand. Yasuo's blade has felt more gentle, like a more gentle breeze these days. These changes will hopefully remind his enemies of the true power of his sword. Base health regen 9 to 12, which is funnily enough a very big buff for the tank Yasuo, because tank Yasuo just goes ruby crystal and rushes plated steel caps. And what does plated steel caps provide you with? Oh yeah, it's bonus health regen, which is based on your standard health regen. Oh wait, and what rune do you run? Oh yeah, you don't run bone plating because of your passive, you run second wind. So you buff this champion's health regen by 33.3% because this champion apparently isn't durable enough? How many times did you lose against the Yasuo level 1? I think pretty much all the time, because he just dashes into your face and beats you to death due to his high base stats. But again, that is just me. His first ability, Steel Tempest, is also getting a buff of 5 flat. I don't really know why this champion is getting more damage. Maybe they want him to deal as much damage as his Yone brother from the jungle, which you can play with first strike and then you just kill people on cooldown. But people play tank Yasuo because he's just the objectively easier to play variant of the Yasuo, because it literally can't die. And for his ultimate, you have an increase in bonus attack damage scaling. So yeah, we just made tank Yasuo even more tankier during the laning phase in general, because he gains more stats in the sense of health regen and damage. And for what did we do this? I do not understand. I guess Yasuo is a champion that needs to be at 50% win rate as well, because, you know, every champion has to be there. Zoe. Zoe has been overwhelming her opponents, especially in the early game. We're adjusting her numbers to give her enemies a chance to catch their breath. A good call. Zoe is absolutely overtuned if played well, but only if played well. The least possible damage is being reduced from 35 to 30, so it's a 20 ability power, a 20 flat damage reduction on the least possible damage, and the highest possible damage is being reduced from 87.5 to 75 and 387 to 337. The ability power scalings remain the same. This is a 50 damage reduction, and I think it's a good approach. Zoe dealt too much damage, but in all honesty, is this going to be enough? Because this is not the first nerf to that ability, and it still one-shot you, and with the AP item changes, it still is going to deal a lot of damage. And if you take a look at your death log, I think you were dying a lot, to a lot more than just a 50 extra damage, but obviously, I like to be corrected in the future if this actually turns out to be like such a nerf that Zoe isn't in the highest tier 4 mid lane anymore, but I doubt it, because damage creep is still insane. Another change to her damage comes to the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. The damage of that ability is reduced by 10 and 25 on the highest rank. The bonus true damage is also going down. Okay. Cool. So we have now a combo nerf of a first ability and a third ability, because in the past, if you hit an enemy with the third ability once you have 2 items, the enemy just dies. There's no counterplay. The issue or the question is, do they now survive with sufficient HP, or do they still die? Because yeah, if Zoe hits bubble, you usually just die anyway. So yeah, that is something we'd have to see, and the portal jump cooldown is being increased from 10 to 12. On the highest rank, it's still the same. Okay, less frequent combos, etc. Very interesting approach. I like that they reduced the damage of Zoe. I think it's a very good choice, but I would have rather seen something about a second ability over all the other things. But yeah, like, your gameplay loop on Zoe is you have portal, you can also cast your bubble, and if the bubble connects, you kill. So yeah. The ARAM changes, I'll just scroll through them, you can take a look at them. I don't know how relevant you think they are. I personally do not really care about ARAM, but here they are, just for you. And now we move over to the gameplay changes. Force of Nature. We are boosting the cost efficiency of Force of Nature so it can become a more desirable pickup when you're against an AP heavy team. Excuse me. The total cost of the item is reduced by 100 gold. The magic resist is increased by 5. And the amount of stacks you need to fully stack the item is decreased from 6 to 4. The damage mitigation remains the same. So, why do I like this change? First off, Force of Nature was one of the only items that can actually make you durable against AP heavy teams, but the primary issue of the item was, by the time you get hit by these abilities, you're dead already. So this is a cool change to make you more durable. Also gives AD carries the ability to also build this item more often, especially if you need to be tankier, simply for the idea of, well, if I'm alive, I deal damage. I think this is a good change. I think this is generally just a good change to the item. Blade of the Ruined King. The health reduction has been more impactful than intended, especially in the early game. We're adjusting it so it's still a valuable pickup, but toning it down just a bit. The base health is only reduced from 5 to 80 now. Here comes the issue. First off, I think this entire theme of Light and Rune is a failure. We all know that WildRift is a massively damage-crapped game. You also have a very high influx of gold, and it started going out of control with boots providing you with stats of an entire item, making things even more insane, granting you like mana regen, AP, and pen. So, I think they are understanding that this theme is very problematic because people are just one-shotting each other left and right. But in all reality, what is this change going to do? What is this minuscule change of Alive realistically going to do? I like the approach that they nerfed the damage of a few champions, yes, but so many other champions are still left untouched. So many other things are not changed, like dragons are not talked about at all, how inferior they are compared to Herald and how weak a soul is. Now we talk about the Infinity Edge. We're also adjusting the health reduction in Infinity Edge grants. It was stronger than we intended. It is the same now as the Blade of the Ruined King, and they nerfed the damage of Infinity Edge by 5%. Okay, they are removing some of the damage and giving back some of the durability. In all reality, do you truly believe AD carries with Infinity Edge were a problem? I don't believe that Infinity Edge was the primary problem of the patch, because with this, we had the old crit damage numbers before crit was nerfed. Before crit was nerfed. Keep that in mind, before. So I personally don't think this was required. Also, many AD carries before this Rune crit version of the Infinity Edge came into the game didn't even build Infinity Edge because they died too fast. So you now have an option to deal more damage but die even faster. Is this really the reliable choice unless you are a Giga ADHD demon? Will many builds incorporate Infinity Edge? If they want to deal the most damage, yes. But if you want to survive, you might have to be like, maybe I need other items than Infinity Edge because living longer equals dealing more damage. But the question is, will I still get one shot? That is a question, like, who sees first, hits first, and the person that hits first wins. So I dislike the theme in general, and if you feel the same, let me know in the comments below. Maybe let me know what you think about this general idea about removing durability and adding more damage, and what do you believe could be a better choice. Rabadon's death cap. We are adjusting the numbers of Rabadon's death cap to make it a more reasonable pickup. The health reduction is also in line with the same other items, and the ability power increase is nerfed by 5% at the end. Again, this item is mandatory for mages compared to the Infinity Edge for AD carries. Rabadon's death cap is mandatory because while you look 50% AP do be quite a lot compared to the crit damage when AD carries are completely fine without it, or were fine without it depending on the build you were running. But again, they're removing damage and adding durability, so generally speaking, okay, I'm fine with these changes. They're going into the right direction, which in theory would be the right direction here, because think about this, okay? They are removing the health reduction and removing the, lowering the damage. They're both being lowered. So we're moving to the old items. So removing the light and rune theme would be the right thing to do, but I don't think Riot would do this because they dislike seeing arrows on their side, I think. Same with the Dookie removal on PC for Monster Plus, but yeah, they are going back on that one as they inflated that game horribly as well. So yeah, I would have loved to see them do something with dragons. Maybe for the next theme they do something objective based that is actually valuable, because changing the most commonly built items on champions, I don't think that is the move. Especially if you take away tankiness and give more damage in an already damage crap game. Enough bullshittery and enough crying, now let's talk about Thornmail. We've increased the cost efficiency of Thornmail to make it a reliable pickup when you're combating champions with a lot of health regen or healing. The maximum health is increased by 100, so it's 200 now, and we're struck by an enemy basic attack. You now deal 2% of your bonus health damage as a bonus effect and inflict 50% of the grievous wounds. So the damage of this item is, in terms of base health, doubled, because usually bonus health doubled, so it makes it a better pickup. But again, if you play, unless you're playing Rammus, I believe, completing this item is a mistake. You just want to have Bramble Vest. And then go for other items, because just for the sake of anti-healing, Bramble with 40% is sufficient. And upgrading it to this item, outside of probably a few rare cases where Thornmail actually increases your damage a lot, where you can guarantee the enemy to hit you, because it's synergistic with your kit, is not the good choice. But once you get to the later item completion, I think it's a good idea. Terminus. We're introducing an upper limit of the armor and magic penetration as 40% with equipped Terminus. What does this do? WildRift in the past had 45%, if I'm not mistaken, and with this they want a 40% max. The issue with this is, this item here could grant you pen, but also the raw AP items, like for example, Infinity Orb, Rabadon, and other items such as Ludens or something. Yeah, any of the AP items that have percent pen would allow you to then gain even more pen. So let's say you are Kaiser. You auto attack, which means you have 30% pen on physical and magical damage, but you also have multiple AP items. So you have way more pen than you should have, making you deal even more damage. So a Kaiser with a Sense Reaver, Terminus, and then a few AP items would deal a lot more damage than she's supposed to be, because she first off gains free pen from Terminus and the free pen from the items she's already building. So yeah, important change for a few niche cases where it was simply too overtuned. Light, Yuma's Ghostblade. We're adjusting the amount of armor penetration Yuma's grant, so it's a more desirable choice when facing a team that's stacking armor. Huh? What? Am I dumb? We're adjusting the amount of armor penetration Yuma's grants, so it's a more desirable choice when facing a team that is stacking armor. But they're removing armor pen. Huh? Well, they're nerfing Yuma's Ghostblade, which is a good choice, because this item was the premier choice for most junglers, because it was simply overtuned. And the few cases for mid lane where you might miss an item breakpoint were like a completely different story, because it was made more expensive. But yeah, the text just, I guess, doesn't make sense, and I agree with the nerf, it dealt too much damage. Ooh! First Strike. We adjusted the damage it provides to make sure it's not overwhelming when combined with other items and runes. Dealing damage to a champion grants you 5 gold, and First Strike for 3 seconds, allowing you to deal 9%, now 7% of true damage to them. Yeah, good choice, but I think this entire rune is potentially flawed, because junglers are using this rune because this rune is the best choice. A lot of jungles, due to the theme of the game of one-shotting people, like for example, Yone jungle goes First Strike. Many other junglers go First Strike. Because, for example, Yone comes out of Fog of War with Trinity Force, Shield Bow, and Infinity Edge, and one-shots you, goes back. And he can probably do this reliably by proccing First Strike. Because jungle does only have like a counter matchup if the enemy is playing, or the enemy team is playing, otherwise jungle is just left alone. And then you have the role, which already has the ability to be everywhere on the map, that also gains bonus gold. So, if anything, we should maybe look at First Strike maybe being removed for being too powerful in the sense of power creeping the game. Because many of the powerful meta champions like Kha'Zix, Evelynn, Lee Sin, they all use First Strike. So this could help maybe rebalance jungle a tiny bit if this was tackled more than just 2%. Lee Sin is still gonna one-tap you, don't get me wrong. Keystone Empowerment. Since Kraken Slayer has been removed, sustained damage from marksmen has taken a hit. We are buffing Empowered Attack to empower marksmen to continue their skirmishes. When a target is vulnerable, your damage is now increased from 8 to 24 compared to 6 to 20, and when the target exits the vulnerable state, the cooldown is only 4 seconds instead of 6 seconds. Yeah, a very important change. I think this will be tackled again. Kraken was so strong that many AD carries with animation cancels or multi-hits love this rune too much. It dealt a lot of damage, especially when it's scaled. Compared to this version feels a lot worse personally, because you also don't see the damage that your allies deal to the target because it's like bonus damage. For other champions, for example Renekton, the newest version is better because all your spells do more damage. So it depends on the champion, but I don't know if current Conqueror, for example, on Renekton is worse or better than the Empowerment rune, PTA. So yeah, because Kraken wasn't really better, it was just a gimmicky first strike thing, but Empowerment can realistically even be better. Gameplay: the Ixtal Scorpion. Ixtal Scorpion. Players won't be able to summon the Ixtal Scorpion when they have taken damage within the last 2 seconds. Yay. Skins: Cottontail Vex, releasing on the 28th of April. Calligraphia Yasuo, also on the 28th. I'll just go with all the 28th champions. Calligraphia Jarvan, Tryndamere, Janna, Zarya, Prestige Yasuo, Dragon Fist Lee Sin, Jade Dragon Wukong, Supreme Cell Sakali, the Chinese exclusive skin, and on the 8th of May we have the Akadi Viego and the Akadi Caitlyn. And with that, we're at the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and catch you more for more RiftGuides content very soon. Tomorrow I think I should have another video ready, and we also have the Chinese tier list dropping. I don't know when, but it will. It might be outdated because, funny thing is, yesterday I just got to know that another patch will drop. I didn't have any idea earlier. Amazing, isn't it? Anyways, thank you for watching and see you soon for more reviews. Bye bye!